Ever get the feeling there's more to a story than meets the eye? We're diving into a side of Jesus' life that often gets overshadowed his 20s. Forget the sermons and miracles for a bit. We're going back to when he was just a young man figuring things out.
It's easy to skim over those years to jump straight to the public figure. But what's remarkable, and what our source material today, the Urantia book, emphasizes, is how crucial that period of growth was for Jesus.
Now, I know the Urantia book might be new to some folks listening. It's not your typical biblical text. It presents a unique and, dare I say, bolder perspective on Jesus' life, including these lesser-known years.
It does indeed. And it's because of that unique perspective that we can uncover insights into Jesus' character that might surprise even those familiar with the traditional narratives.
Okay, so the Urantia book paints a picture of Jesus in his early 20s, still living in Nazareth. He's supporting his family, being a dutiful son, but there's this sense of something stirring within him.
It's not that he's turning his back on his family. The book is clear about that. He continues to send money home, prioritizing their well-being.
Yeah.
But there's this pull he feels towards a different path, a life less ordinary.
And this is where it gets really interesting. Instead of staying put, he sets off for Capernaum, a bustling hub of activity on the Sea of Galilee. Picture it, fishermen merchants are real crossroads of life.
And it's in Capernaum that we encounter a side of Jesus we rarely hear about: the skilled craftsman. The Urantia book tells us he was a gifted carpenter, even revolutionizing boat building in the region.
Wait, hold up. Jesus was building boats, like actual boats people sailed on. Okay, now this is what I'm talking about when I say deep dive. This completely changes my image of him.
It does challenge our preconceived notions, doesn't it?
Right.
We tend to think of him solely in spiritual terms. But here he is working with his hands, collaborating with a master boat builder named Zebedee. And not just building, but innovating.
So tell me more about this innovation. What were they doing that was so revolutionary?
They designed and built boats with superior craftsmanship and safety features. People were talking about these boats all over Galilee. Imagine, not only was Jesus a skilled craftsman, but also a forward thinker, improving people's lives in practical ways.
That's wild. It makes you think about the implications. This wasn't just about carpentry. It was about problem solving, improving safety for fishermen who risk their lives on the water every day. It speaks to a deep care for people's everyday struggles.
Exactly. This detail really underscores the Urantia book's emphasis on Jesus' humanity. He wasn't aloof or detached from the world. He actively sought to improve the lives of those around him.
I'm seeing him in a whole new light. And it gets even more intriguing because, according to the Urantia book, his relationship with Zebedee went beyond the professional. He became like family, a son to Zebedee, and a brother to his sons, particularly John.
And this bond with John becomes crucial later. The Urantia book tells us Jesus entrusted his earnings from the boat-building business to John, specifically to support his family back in Nazareth.
Wow, talk about a vote of confidence. He could have easily used that money for himself, but his first thought was for his family.
And that speaks volumes about his character. It highlights a deep sense of responsibility and love for his family, even as he embarked on his own journey of self-discovery.
And what a journey that turned out to be. This is where things take a really fascinating turn, right? The Urantia book describes a year-long adventure Jesus takes around the Mediterranean. And get this, he goes incognito, under the guise of the Damascus scribe.
Like something out of a spy novel.
Yeah.
We're talking about Jesus in his late 20s, traveling to different lands, immersing himself in cultures completely different from his own. It completely upends the traditional narrative, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. But why the secrecy? Why not travel openly as Jesus of Nazareth?
That's a question that'll lead us deeper into the Urantia book's perspective, which we'll explore as we continue our deep dives in part 2. Still with us. So we left off with Jesus embarking on this secret journey around the Mediterranean, taking on this persona of the Damascus scribe. Now you might be wondering, why the secrecy? The Urantia book proposes a pretty intriguing answer.
Yeah, it is kind of a head-scratcher at first. If he was on a mission of peace and understanding, why not go about it openly?
Well, the book suggests that part of it was about protecting his family from any potential backlash or worry. But there's a deeper layer to it as well.
Okay, I'm all ears.
The Urantia book proposes that this secret journey was about experiencing the world without any preconceived notions about who he was. Remember, he wasn't just another traveler. He was on a path to discover his true nature, his divine purpose.
Ah. So by traveling incognito, he could fully immerse himself in different cultures, connect with people on a genuine level without the weight of expectations or the label of Son of God.
Precisely. It's like he wanted to understand humanity, not from a position of authority, but from a place of shared experience. The Urantia book even details his encounters with people from all walks of life: merchants, teachers, priests, even those living on the fringes of society.
It's humbling to think about. He wasn't just observing these cultures from a distance. He was living among them, sharing their meals, hearing their stories, experiencing their joys and sorrows firsthand.
Exactly. It wasn't just about acquiring knowledge, it was about empathy. The Urantia book suggests that these encounters, particularly with those who were suffering or marginalized, deeply impacted Jesus, shaping his understanding of human vulnerability and resilience.
That makes me think about how we often build up walls between ourselves, letting differences divide us. But here's Jesus breaking down those barriers, connecting with people on a soul level, regardless of their social standing or beliefs.
That's a powerful insight. And it challenges us to examine our own biases and preconceptions. How often do we miss the opportunity to truly connect with someone because we've already judged them based on external factors?
So this journey wasn't just about exploring the world geographically, it was about expanding his capacity for empathy and compassion. It's like he was laying the groundwork for his future ministry.
Precisely. It's as if by experiencing the world's diversity and embracing its complexities, Jesus was preparing himself to speak to the hearts of all people.
Okay, so he's traveling, he's learning, he's connecting. But I have to ask, what about the spiritual side of things? Was this journey solely focused on the human experience, or was there a divine element at play as well?
That's a great question, and one that takes us even deeper into the Urantia book's narrative. It's a question that will lead us into the transformative impact of this period, which we'll explore as we continue our deep dive in part 3.
We're back, and I've got to say, thinking about Jesus navigating bustling marketplaces and ancient temples really shifts your perspective, doesn't it?
It certainly does. It's a far cry from the stained glass windows we often associate him with.
Totally. And it makes you wonder how those experiences, those encounters with the richness and rawness of human life, shaped the man he was about to become.
That's the heart of it, isn't it? The Urantia book doesn't shy away from this period being absolutely pivotal. We're talking about the forging of empathy, the kind that could only come from walking a mile in countless others' sandals.
Okay, so how does the Urantia book connect those experiences to the Jesus we see stepping into his ministry? You know, the one preaching love and forgiveness, challenging the status quo.
It's all about perspective.
Yeah.
Imagine this. He wasn't preaching at people from some untouchable pedestal.
Yeah.
He was speaking with them, drawing on a shared well of human experience.
Because he'd been there. He'd felt the sting of loss, the weight of injustice, the sting of betrayal firsthand.
Exactly. It's the difference between reciting scripture and genuinely feeling its weight. It's why people were so drawn to him. His words resonated with a depth that intellectual understanding could never achieve.
Makes you wonder if we lose sight of that human element sometimes in our own lives. You know, getting so caught up in dogma or doctrine that we forget the core message of compassion and understanding.
It's a trap we can all fall into. The Urantia book seems to suggest that this journey into the heart of humanity wasn't just for Jesus. It's a path we're all invited to walk.
So by embracing our own humanity, connecting with others on that deep level, we're essentially tapping into something bigger than ourselves.
It's like tuning into a universal frequency, one that vibrates with empathy and understanding. And who knows, maybe that's how we begin to bridge those divides we see in the world today.
Wow, that's a powerful thought to end on. So as we emerge from this deep dive into Jesus's untold journey, what's the one thing you hope our listeners carry with them?
Remember that every interaction, every encounter is an opportunity to connect on that deeper level, to see the divine spark in each other, even amidst our differences.
It's about choosing compassion over judgment, understanding over indifference day in and day out. That's a challenge worth embracing. This has been The Deep Dive. Thanks for joining us.